Okay. So this is the basic structure of the Cat1, and there will be two questions. The first question is from single and three-phase diode rectifiers. These are uncontrolled rectifiers. So I know you guys have learned about these things, and you guys also did some questions in the TMA1 also. And TMA1 will be marked by me, and I will check your answers. Okay. The first one is single phase and three phase diode rectifiers. And in this question, there will be so learning outcomes. You will be checking the average voltage calculations, and there will be some waveforms. So you have to draw them. And this is open book, so you guys can keep any book you need. And I have included recommended materials. So you guys, if the most of the answers, I think there will be those answers in these books somewhere. You guys will find the answers, so keep these books with you. And then three-phase control rectifiers, tristor control rectifiers. So in there you will have to derive some equations, and you have to use that equation to do some calculations. Okay, so the paper is scheduled for, I think, 27th, starting from 9:30 or 10:30. I can't remember the time, but the paper is 1 hour and 15 minutes. So, but you will be given 2 hours to do all the things, right? I think it is the normal procedure. So you will have 2 hours, and you can, this is an open book examination. You can find the answers from the recommended material, and also keep the uploaded resources with you also. Do you guys know how to find these books? So now it is, we have to go paper free because of the COVID situation, right? So do you guys know how to find these books? Do you already have these books? So this one is the Power Electronics by Ned Mohan. This is okay. This is by this is the actual reference book for this module. And Power Electronics by Daniel W. Hart. This is actually not listed as the reference book, but this book gives you like very good detailed explanations. So I am recommending this book for your reference in all the other works, but for the Cat1, the most of the questions will be from this book. Okay. And also from the NPTEL documents uploaded in the Moodle. Okay, so you guys don't know how to find these books, right? Okay, I will actually both these books are available in Google for free, and I will put a link here in the chat. This website is called Library Genesis. I think you guys may already know this. So libgen.is, this is called this website is called Library Genesis. So most books are there, and you can directly type Power Electronics by Ned Mohan PDF on the Google, then there will be the book. Okay. Okay, so that's all I am going to tell about the Cat1, and I can say it is a very easy paper. Okay, so very easy. There will be some time consuming parts in the derivation of equation and drawing waveforms. So you should manage the time, but paper is very easy. Okay, don't worry about it. And I know TMA1 you guys have found that hard, but Cat1 will be easy. Okay, if you have any questions, you can interrupt me anytime. So like put it in the chat, or just use the microphone and tell me. Okay, and I will share my phone number also at the end of the session, so you guys can call me to get any input. Okay. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about DC to DC converters. Okay, so I know there's NPTEL document available in the Moodle, but that document is much more theory oriented. But and also there are a lot of things like in your what is it, module synopsis or something like that, it is given in the Moodle. So in the module synopsis we only have to cover few stuff. I have listed them here, but in the NPTEL document it covers much more than this. So you guys only need this stuff, and there's something I have not included here. It is bridge converters. So I'm trying to like give you it is actually very easy. Bridge convert is directly you know this uh, it is something like a H bridge. So you guys earlier learned about these things in I think AC to DC converters, rectifiers. So something like that. Very easy. It is. I will not cover that here, but it is very easy. You guys can learn about it, and these are the most important ones. In DC to DC converters, we have non-isolated and isolated power supplies, and non-isolated we have buck boost and buck boost, and isolated we have forward and flyback. These are the ones you need to know when you are going to study in this course. So in the learning synopsis or the module synopsis uploaded in the course module, you will it is required only to learn about these things. Okay, so I'm going to cover basics of these things and designing. So I know like engineers, we should know how to design a power supply, right? So we should also know how it works. But the main thing is we need to know how to design a power supply. So I'm going to cover the designing parts today. So I think you guys will find it easy, because even though you have a lot of theories in the documents we have provided, the designing is very easy. Okay, so don't worry about it. In the examination also I will give some design questions. You will find it easy, and you will be able to do them by practice. So you have to practice, obviously. Okay, so have you guys heard about this pulse width modulation? So you guys can put the answer in the chat. Just say yes or no, like put it directly to me, or if you like put it to everyone. Just say yes or not. Have you guys heard about pulse width modulation or PWM? I think if you have worked in robotics projects, PWM, have you guys learned about it? You guys can tell me anything. I'm not going to like, you know, blame you if you guys got it wrong. Okay, so yeah, microprocessor interfacing. Yeah. So you guys have heard about pulse width modulation, right? So so in here, pulse width modulation, do you guys know what it does? So we have a fixed voltage and we are creating another voltage level at the output, right? Is that what you guys did using PWM in microprocessor and interfacing? In that subject, I don't know about that subject. So probably that, right? So you guys created 3 volts output from a 5 volt supply. Is that what you did? Can somebody answer? Yeah, yes. So 3 volt supply from a 5 volts output, that is DC to DC conversion, right? So that is the basic principle of this DC to DC conversion. So in the PWM, what we do is we have a fixed source. Let's say this is 5 volts, and we have a load, but this loads require some other level of voltage output, like 3 volts or something. So what we do is we use a switch and turn it on and off in a cycle to get average 3 volts in the outputs. That's how we use pulse width modulation. So in here, we keep our switch on for times, let's say T on. Then we keep our switch off for T off time. Then we can have an average voltage waveform at the output, but the instantaneous voltage waveform will be something like this. Obviously, it is not a direct or constant DC output, right? It will be some pulses. That's why it is called pulse width modulation. So this is in here, the pulses are somewhat wide, but if you consider a low T on time, pulses will be something like this. So pulses are smaller, see? And when your pulse on time is smaller, your output voltage will also be small. I think you guys have learned about this in the this subject, microprocessor and interfacing. So that is what happening in pulse width modulation. So the main disadvantage of this pulse width modulation is the output is not constant DC. It will be something like this. And if you draw this waveform, or if you use if you convert this waveform into frequency domain, there will be a lot of harmonics in that output. See, so fundamental, the in here we are talking about DC. So we have to consider about the 0 hertz component. So we have 0 hertz component, and it is A into D. A into D means the A is amplitude. Amplitude is Vs. D is duty cycle. Duty cycle means T on over T on plus T off. That means the on time. On time as a ratio for the ratio to the total time. Okay. So simply what it says is, if you have 5 volts here, and if you have defined your T as, let's say, 5 milliseconds, and you have T on as 3 milliseconds, then your T off will be simply 2 milliseconds. So your duty cycle will be 3 milliseconds over 5 milliseconds, or 60%. So in here, A into D. So if you apply this here, this is 5 volts. So earlier our duty cycle was 60%, 5 into 60%, it will be 3 volts. That's how we create our the average voltage output at the output terminals, but it has lot of harmonics, as I said before. So to filter out harmonics, what we can do? We can easily put a what? Low pass filter, right? We can easily put a low pass filter. So if you have a lot of harmonics, if you put a filter to filter out the DC component, let's say, okay, first tell me, have you guys learned about filters? LC filters, active and passive filters, have you guys learned about them? Put yes or no in the chat. I think it is, yes, okay. Thank you, Sandeep. Okay, thank you. So what we do is, we do in filter design, what we do is we define a cutoff frequency. Okay, I'll draw a filter here. Wait. So usually a filter will have a response curve, right? It will be, if it is a low pass filter, it will be something like this. So in here, there will be 3 dB frequency, and this is the 3 dB amplitude, and this will be the cutoff frequency. So what we do is, we are putting a filter. So this is frequency domain. So this is T and this is A. This is F and this is A. So what we do is, we define a filter here to only get this DC components. That's how we create a constant output DC converter. Okay, I think you guys have learned the basic of it. Okay. I know that NPTEL documents have they does not give the very simple explanations, but today I think you guys will be able to catch up. Okay, so now you guys know how to get a constant output DC at a terminal by using a low pass filter, and efficiency of this system will be depend on this low pass filter efficiency. Okay, if you assume the switch has no losses. Okay, now we are coming to the buck converter. So these are a bit unfamiliar names. Usually buck means step down. Okay, so can you identify the previous circuit, this circuit somewhere here? See, this is the same circuit, right? We have a switch and a supply, and so you guys know filters. Usually we can draw a low pass, so LC low pass. Low pass filter will be something like this. This is L, this is C. I hope everybody can follow with me. Okay. So can you find this component also here? So we have the switching component here. This is the component 1. Then we have, do we have a low pass filter also here? See, we have a low pass filter. This is the load resistor. So if load is not there, this will not be there. So this is not the, this is not a part of the buck converter circuit. Okay. This is, you can just cross it out. So this part from here to this part, it is the buck converter circuit. So we have low pass filter and a switch. But we have something additional, right? What is this? This is called freewheeling diode. So, okay, for now, neglect this. So you guys can understand this is the same circuit as here, right? We have the low pass filter here. So if you draw it here, I'm going very slow because you guys said this subject is very hard for you guys. That's why I'm going very slow. So if you have the inductor here, oh, sorry, this is connected here. This will be the capacitor. Okay, but we have a diode here also in the buck converter. This is called a freewheeling diode. Have you guys heard about it before? In when you guys reading documents and all, freewheeling diode, have you guys heard about it? Okay, okay. What does freewheeling diode does it? It protects the switching element or the MOSFET. So if we don't have this freewheeling diode, what happens is, so when you have switched off this circuit, the inductor will generate its magnetic field and it will store energy in the magnetic field, right? So you know from basic knowledge from first year, I think level 3, right, in your scheme, level 3 knowledge, voltage of an inductor is given by L di by dt. So this is the change in current, right? Di by dt is the current gradient. It will be the change in current. So this is the voltage. What if our current drops like this? Like your gradient is infinite. If we suddenly turn off the circuit, the current will go to 0 instantly, right? So we cannot have this here because your current change will be infinite and your voltage will go to a very high value. So if you switch off the switch in a sudden movement, this will happen. So what happens is, but there's current flowing in this inductor, but inductor can't have a sudden current change. So we should provide a path to circulate this current. That's why we have included this freewheeling diode. So if in the switch open condition, the current will circulate through this path, or if a load is connected, this path. That's why that is the need of this freewheeling diode. Okay, that is the additional component in the step down converter. So step down or buck converter. So that's how this buck converter is derived. Okay. So then we are going to go and do the analysis of this buck converter. When you do an analysis of any power electronic converter, you have 2 steps to follow, very easy steps. So you know from basic knowledge, net current change through inductor should be 0. This is for a cycle. Okay, so this is the main theory we need to derive an equation for a power electronic circuit. Net current change through inductor is 0. That means if you consider a cycle, cycle means duty cycle. You can also say T, the total cycle period. That means the T period. the current change in the inductor, net current change in the inductor should be 0. That means if there's an initial current going through the inductor, after the cycle has finished, that same current value should be there in the inductor. So that is the net current change through inductor should be 0. That is the meaning of that term. And we say, when analyzing the buck converter, we say our converter is in steady state output. We have no disturbances. That is one of the assumptions we have to take. Then we have to draw mode circuits. So mode circuit. So if you have one switch, how many modes that can have? If you have only one switch, we can have turned on position and turned off position, right? So if you have only one switch, there will be two mode circuits. One is for switch closed or turned on. One is for switch open or turned off. Okay. I said we have to follow 2 steps, actually 3 steps. 3 steps to analyze any power electronic converter. So I will, so you guys can note it down. First, what you have to do is first draw mode circuits. Okay, so you know mode circuits. This is switch is in here, the switch was here. So this is switch is on, so it is in on position, or so we can say also switch closed. So this here was the switch. Okay, so this is switch open position. So draw mode circuits. Then we have to find current change delta IL in both or available mode circuits. That means T on or T off. Then we can use the theory. TIL open plus delta IL closed should be 0. So if you apply these 3 steps, you will easily derive the equation for any power electronic converter. Sometimes some power electronic converters have more than one inductors. In that case, we have to select which inductor we are going to use in the second step. Okay, and these are the assumptions we take. We say our circuit is in steady state, inductor current is continuous, and net current changing through the inductor is 0, and capacitor is very large. This is also important. If the capacitor is small, there will be ripple at the output. So if there's a ripple at the output, you cannot assume that V out is a constant value. So in here, we are going to assume all the time, we are going to assume V out is a constant value. And open the close, the T on time is dt, or switch close time is dt, and switch open time or the switch off time is 1 minus dt. So you know d is a portion. If it is 0.5, this will be also 0.5. If it is 0.6, this will be 0.4. 0.6 is corresponding to 60% duty cycle. Okay. Okay. So now we are going to assess the mode 1 or switch on position of the buck converter. So you know switch is closed. That means the switch is conducting. So first step, we have to draw the mode circuit. So we already have drawn the mode circuits. Now we have to apply. We have to find the net current change through the inductors. So we have the inductor here. We know the inductor equation, DIL over dt. Current change is given by this, and we can easily find in the switch on position, VL is equal to Vs minus V naught. Like, so steady state, we have Vs here, we have V out here. So the voltage at the terminals of the inductor will be this value. Then we equate this to this, and we have DIL over dt equals Vs minus V naught over L. So this is also an important observation. We already said Vs is constant, V out is constant. L is, it is a fixed value because it is the rating of the inductor. So this part is what? The complete part is a constant, right? So DIL over dt is a constant. So DIL over dt represents the gradient of the current, right? So gradient, you know what is the gradient means. So if the gradient is constant, we can easily say our current change is linear. Did you understand this? This part, our derivative of the current is constant. That means it is changing linearly. Okay, in all the circuits. So this is in here, this switch on position only corresponds to this part. So see, we can say it is linear. And if it is linear, do you need to use this derivative techniques to find out the actual derivative? No, right? You can easily take the, so gradients, you know, mx plus c. So you can easily find the change in y-axis and change in x-axis and find the gradient. So what is the change in y-axis? It is delta IL, it is the change in current, and change in x-axis dt. This is in the time domain. Okay, so derivative of the current can be easily represented like this. And this is the net current change. This is the net current change at the closed position. So we can say net current change closed is equal to, we can easily put it here, and Vs minus V out over dt over L. Okay. Okay. Now we have found half of the, we have evaluated one mode circuit. Okay. Now we are coming to the second circuit. Second circuit is also the same. We have, now our switch is what? Now our switch is in the off position. So again, we take the voltage across the inductor. So we have V out here. This is connected to ground. So our VL will be minus V out, right? So we have V out here and this is ground. This will be simply minus V out. So same thing, we do this, and this is in here also V out minus L constants. We can easily say this will be a linear change. Then our time difference, in here the time is something else, right? Earlier it was this period, now it is this period, because mode 2 circuit is valid for this time period. Mode 1 circuit is valid for this time period. So in here also we can easily write the derivative as this, because this is a linear change. We can change the change in y-axis and change in x-axis and easily represent it like this. And IL open will be, okay, you guys know how to do the maths, right? Something like this. Then we have a simple theory. Net current change through the inductor is 0 for one cycle. So that means net current change in the closed position and the net current change in the open position will be equal to 0. So we have derived these two components, Vs minus V out dt over L, and this part. So we can easily derive the equation for buck converter. This is same as the one we got for PWM circuit, right? So let's say we have a Vs equals 5 volts. We have a duty cycle of, let's say, 60%. What will be the V out? 0.6 into 5. D is the duty cycle. So I mentioned this, right? Okay. D is T on over T on plus T off. T on plus T off is equal to total time T on. Total time is cycle time. So you know in PWM, so in PWM we define the cycle, right? We define. So if you take a PWM signal, it will be something like this, right? So this is T, this is T on. Okay. So duty cycle means T on over T. Did you understand? I got a question. That's why I mentioned it again. Okay. I hope you understood this, right? D is the duty cycle. Okay. So I think now you guys know how to derive the equation for buck Converter, right? Okay. So now we know how buck converter works. Now we are going to see how to design a buck converter. So you have, so in when you are going as an power electronics engineer, so there's no position like that. So some, let's say you are working for a company that they make power electronic circuits. So they ask you to design a power electronic circuit that is working in continuous operation or continuous conduction, and it has your ripple should be less than this percentage. That's how they say. Okay, so they also, you know, the output voltage you can easily define by the duty cycle. So if they need a 50 volts output, you have a 100 volts source, you can easily say our duty cycle will be 50 over 100, that means 0.5. So duty cycle you can easily calculate by your mind. But when it comes to sizing the inductor and the capacitor, so these are the main two components you need to design in a power electronic circuit. So now we are going to see how we are going to design an inductor for a buck converter. Okay. Okay. So first, again, take a look at the circuit. We have the inductor here. We have the capacitor here. These are the main two components we are going to define. If we don't have these two components, what will be the output? This will be something like this. So we can't have that. We need constant DC. So to have constant DC, we need to size these components accordingly. So now we are going to see how we are going to do that. Okay. Okay. So first, sizing of the inductor. And the sizing of the inductor is mainly done to have the continuous conduction. So if you don't have a adequate inductor or the adequate magnetic field, your system will not supply the required current amount for all the times. Like it will supply some current, but if you take a T cycle, this current will not go up to T. So it will go to 0 somewhere here. So that is called discontinuous operation. So that is actually there are some usages of that too, but we need to know how to size an inductor for the continuous operation. Okay. So from the circuit, so earlier circuit, we can find our IL or the inductor. This is the inductor current. Okay, so we need to keep our inductor current not going to 0 to have the continuous operation. I hope everybody has understood that. So we can find our inductor current from the earlier circuit. Here, if you take the inductor current, there will be when the current is flowing, this is the load current and this is what the current going through the capacitor. But in the operation, we assume that our capacity is very large. Okay, capacity is very large and it does not offer any ripple. So if it does not offer any ripple, that means the current going to this capacitor will be very minimum. So we are neglecting that. That's why I have written here our inductor current is directly equal to the load current. So load current we can easily calculate V out over the load resistance. So we are taking that assumption here. We are thinking our capacitor is very large and it does not charge or discharge during the operation. So if it is charging and discharging, this equation will not be valid, but for the designing we are taking it like this. Okay. So if you take the inductor waveform, it will be something like this. And by looking at this waveform, we are defining our Imax and Imin. Imax means the maximum current through inductor and the Imin is the minimum current through inductor. For the continuous operation, what we have to do? We have to make sure our Imin does not go to 0, right? So for the continuous, if this goes to 0, if this point is crossing the zero line or zero line, that means it does not offer continuous operation. So we have to make sure our converter is working at continuous operation mode. So we are making sure our Imin is larger than 1, larger than 0. Okay. To do that, we have to first derive equation for Imax and the Imin. So Imax, so here we are assuming a constant inductor current and change in the inductor current like this. So we are assuming the change in the positive side and the negative side is equal. So we are distributing this change in the inductor current as delta IL over 2 and minus delta IL over 2. That means this position will be IL plus delta IL over 2 and this position will be minus delta IL over 2. So from this equation, we can say delta IL closed equal delta IL open. So current change at a cycle should be 0. So for achieve that condition, the current change in the closed position and the current change in the open position has to be 0, right? Okay. So we earlier found the delta IL. So it is came to this, right? So you can use either delta IL open or delta IL close, because we know the delta IL close is equal to minus. If we take the magnitude, these two components will be same, right? So we are applying this expression. We had two expressions. We had this one and this one. So this one only has V out. So we like that. If we have two variables, we cannot work with it very easily. So we are applying this one because both are same. So we applied that and we get the expression. So we can write the expression for Imax as this. If you simplify this, you will get to this. So do that at home. Okay. So you know T is equal 1 over F. So you know cycle time is equal 1 over frequency. And here, this is the negative component of this, and your Imin value will be something like this. And these equations are sourced from Daniel W. Hart Power Electronics. So I sent you the link to download that book. So search in Library Genesis, just say Daniel W. Hart Power Electronics and just search it, and you will get the book. Okay. And you go through this also, because NPTEL documents are a little bit hard to understand for like they concern about high theory contents. So you guys need to know how to do the designs. Okay. And we have Imin as this. So if this component not to go 0, if we need this component to not to go to 0, what is the condition we need to fulfill from this term? We have to make sure this term is larger than or equal to 0, right? So if this is the inductor value, so if you equate or larger than this to 0, then you can adjust this equation as you want, and you will get Imin is larger than or equal 1 minus d over r over 2f. Okay, so this is called the bound. So if this is equal to this component, this value, it is called the boundary condition. So in that case, it goes to 0, but right away it comes back. Okay, if this is lower than this value, it goes to 0 and it stays at 0 for some time, then comes back. Okay, so but we do not like that. So we need it constant, continuous. So we are keeping it larger than 0. So we have to have the Lmin value selected to have a current, minimum current larger than 0. So this is the equation for defining minimum required inductance. Okay, I hope everybody has understood that. So you do not need to actually know about these derivations. Just go through the notes. Okay, and this is the equation you need to do a design. Okay, now, so now we know how to size a inductor. So we are simply going to use this equation. Okay, now we are coming to change, control the output ripple. Okay, so your employer says to you, design a converter to have a less than 0.5% ripple. So that means if you are outputting, let's say 3 volts, the change in the output voltage cannot be larger than 0.05%, larger or smaller. That means you cannot, your tolerance rate is 0.05%. Okay. To achieve that ripple level, we need to size the capacitor. So I earlier said we are assuming our capacitor is very large, so there will be no ripple. But actually, can we have that much large capacitor? We can't, right? We have to have some physical capacitor. So those things have ratings. So we have to select the most appropriate capacitor for the design. To do that, we need to consider about the capacitor waveform. In here, so you know, the earlier we talked, this inductor is charging, the getting charged and discharged, getting charged and discharged. If you need to eliminate the ripple, what you have to do? You have to fill these gaps, right? You have to fill these gaps. You have to fill this component. I hope everybody understand this. This is very important. So you have to fill this. This is called a valley. You have to fill this, and you need to eliminate this. So you don't need this part. So then you have to fill this part. You have to eliminate this part. You have to fill this part. This is called filling valleys and eliminating peaks. So if you fill this valley, this current will come to here, right? If you eliminate this peak, this will come to here. If you fill this, so likewise will be a steady current. So the capacitor helps you to do that. It gives energy to, so in here, so this is in here, this is giving off energy. So giving off energy to fill this part. Now it is gaining energy. This is capacitor current. Okay, this is going out of the circuit. So you remember earlier, the capacitor is parallel. So if the current is positive, means it is not going to the load, it is going to the capacitor. So this is charging up. That means it is absorbing this peak. Are you understanding this? Can somebody give me a feedback? Okay, so this peak, it is absorbing. This valley, it is giving off energy to fill. This peak, it is absorbing. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to provide you with the video so you guys can go through it again and understand if you are missing some core parts. Okay. So after reading, you will understand this fully, and read this book also. You guys don't give me any feedback, man. So I don't know whether you are understanding this or not. So read this book, you will understand this. Okay. Okay. So that's how this current of the capacitor helps you to reduce the ripple. So we are going to size this capacitor adequately to have a minimum ripple level. So what is the capacitor equation? The charge is equal CV, right? Q equals CV. Then again we can say Q is equal I into T. So this is also charge, and this is accumulated charge over the time. So I into T. And using those equations, we can easily like, this is the energy, the output energy of this is the input absorbing energy, this is the outputting energy. So we can easily derive equations using this equation here, this equation we talked about for this energy component. So delta Q. So we know delta Q will be equal C into delta V. So this delta V is considered as the ripple amplitude. Okay, ripple is usually represented as a percentage. In here, this is the amplitude. Then we have delta V equals delta Q over C. So just, adjust the equation. So this is equation A. From the other equation, we say it is this equation considered the area of this triangle. So I into T. So we take the charge, we take half. So this is actually a approximation, but even if it is not a T by 2, the other values will change and it will come to this equation. Okay, so if you take this as a simple triangle, the area will be given by this, right? So delta Q is equal delta IT over 8. So if you multiply all this thing, you will get 8 and TIL. Okay, and so you have two expressions for delta Q and delta V. So delta Q, we have selected the ripple amplitude here, and delta Q, it is the energy. And we combine these two equations and we come here. We apply delta Q from this equation. So you will get this. And you also can, you have the delta I. You earlier use delta I here also, right? So you also apply delta I value here. So this is the delta IL value. So you also apply that here, then you will come to this equation. So you adjust it as delta V over V out. So this represents the ripple percentage. If you add a percentage here, this will be ripple percentage. Okay, so you try the adjustments of this equation at home. So you will directly get this. So T is equal 1 over F, and there will be here T and this T squared, and that's why we have F squared in the in here. So if you need to calculate the ripple of a circuit, if you know L, C and other components, you use this equation. And if you are asked to size a capacitor to obtain a ripple, you use this equation. Okay, that's how. So now we know the equations, all the equations we need to know to size a capacitor and a inductor. Okay, let's do some simple exercises. Okay, so we have Vs equal 100 volts here, D equals 0.5, D is the duty cycle, and calculate output voltage. So this is very easy. So in buck converter, V out is equal D into Vs. So 0.5, 100, 50 volts. I'm not going to do that. Okay, and so now we have, if above converter is supplying a 100 ohm load at a switching frequency of 100 kilohertz, what is the minimum inductor value required for continuous conduction? So now we need to use this equation. So now we are talking about the boundary condition or the critical condition. So boundary condition, if the minimum value is defined, so minimum 1 minus dr over 2f. Just apply the equation. So here 0.5, R is 100, and 2 into 10 kilohertz, you will get 2.5 millihenry. Then size the capacitor for a 0.5% ripple. So if you have a ripple, so I discussed about this earlier. This is the ripple percentage. Okay, so if it is 0.5, that means 0.5 to 100, right? So you need to do this conversion. If otherwise, you will directly apply 0.5 here and get a wrong equation. Okay, you have to apply in this form. So C is equal, just use this equation, 0.5, C equals 500 microfarad. So in here, the 500 microfarad is a very high value of capacitance, because we took L min at the boundary condition. Yes, D is 0.5, 1 minus, yeah, D is also 0.5, and here the I'm answering for a question here. Okay, don't get confused. 0.5 also, this is 0.05, the ripple. Ripple is also given. So we are sizing a capacitor for a ripple. D is 0.5. So if you apply 0.5 here, it will be 0.5. Then here also it is 0.5 or 100. So they will cancel out and it will come to 500 microfarads. Okay, I do the calculations at home. So maybe the calculations can have some errors, but so you know of the basics, right? So you know how to calculate a capacitor, size a capacitor. Okay. Okay, now we come to the boost converter. So boost converter. So earlier we talked about stepping down the voltage, right? Now we are going to talk about stepping up the voltage. So stepping up the voltage, it uses an special principle. So earlier I said that if remember that if there's a high current change through an inductor, it will generate a what? A higher voltage, right? So we are using that principle here. What we do is we charge the inductor earlier, like before. Then we are directly disconnecting it. Then it will have a very high amount of energy in this magnetic field, and there will be a higher voltage level, and we are safely transferring that energy to this capacitor. So wait, my internet connection is not stable. Wait, give me a few seconds. Can you guys hear me? There was a message saying that my internet connection is not stable. Can you guys hear me clearly? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what we do is we use that principle to generate a higher voltage level at the capacitor. So we do it as a controlled manner, so we can have higher voltages at the output. So that is the simple way of doing making a step up converter. So we use an inductor, then inductor will get charged up, then we simply change the di by dt. So you know, so I'm going from basics. Okay, maybe you guys are understanding it better, but you know, so somebody is listening can understand better also. So di by dt, so L di by dt is the B, right? So if we can change di by dt suddenly, we can have higher voltages. That is the principle we are using. We are changing it suddenly, and we are changing it in a controlled manner and transferring that voltage to capacitor. That's how we are making a higher voltage here. I hope everybody understood that, right? Okay. And all the assumptions we took in the buck converter applies here also. We have we assume the system is in steady state and inductor current is continuous, and current change through inductor, net current change to inductor will be 0, and our switching period is like switch on for dt time and switch off for 1 minus dt time. Okay, and capacity is very large, so the ripple is minimum and output voltage will be 0. Okay, and all the components are ideal. So now we are going to assess the boost converter again. So in here, I am not going to do a very detailed analysis because I think time will not be enough now. Already it is 11:30. So you guys know now what are the first step. what is the first step? We draw the mod circuits. Then we find what? Then we find the net current change in switch closed or switched on position. Then we find net current change in the switched open position. So after doing that, so in here also I will simply go through this. So in this switch open position, the switch was here. Remember, switch is here. So that means this line. So this is we have allowed current to flow through this line. So Vs will be equal to VL. So inductor voltage will be equal to Vs. So going through all the similar steps, we arrive at Vs over L equals di L over by dt. So all the things are constants, right? So you know linear current change, and you can easily find dil closed is equal Vs over Vs dt over L. So this is the first step. Then secondly, we find the net current change through the inductor in switch off position or switch open. So don't get confused with this also, okay? So closed means it is conducting, open means it is not conducting. So simply closed means switch on, switch open means switch off. Okay, open is off, closed means on. Okay, so sometimes students get confused with that too. Okay, so in here we are evaluating the circuit in switched off position. In here, so you know this line is not there. Earlier the line was here, the line is not there. Now the circuit is something like this. Then Vs, our inductor voltage is Vs minus V out. We have Vs here, V out here, and inductor voltage in the steady state, inductor voltage will be something like this. Then you apply the same equations, then arrive here, and VL open, you find it as this is VL open. So in here it is IL, not here it is IL open, it is IL closed. So then our golden theory is here. Net current change through inductor is 0 for one cycle. IL closed first, IL open, delta IL open should be 0. So you take this, and add them up, you arrive it here. So now see, we have a somewhat different equation, right? Let's say what happens if we have a Vs equals 5 volts, D equals let's say 0.5. What will be the output? 5 minus 1 minus 0.5. This is 10 volts, right? See, we are making 10 volts from the 5 volt supply. That's how it works. So there's no invalidation of energy conservation here. Your voltage is going up, current is going down. Okay, in earlier condition also voltage is going down, current goes up. I will erase this. Okay, so try this at home. Okay, so I earlier it's the same steps. Voltage across inductor, then current change across inductor in both modes, then add them up, you will get the output formula. Okay, formula for the V out. Okay, now sizing of the inductor for continuous conduction. In here the equations are a bit different from the buck converter. So if you remember, in the buck converter, the inductor was somewhat in line with the load, right? See, in all the circuits, inductor is directly connected to the load. So therefore, we can easily take this current through capacitor is minimum and inductor current is equal to output current. But in here, we can't do that. See, inductor is somewhere here. So in the switched on position, it is not even connected to the load. Only in the switch off position, it is connected to the load. So therefore, we have to get another approach to find this IL. So what we have done here is we are using the power equations. So in here, we are just taking the power input from the source and dividing it by the so these are power equations, right? So V out, I out. So this is P out, and Vs is what? This is input supply voltage. So dividing this, it will give you IL. So this is also taken by the Daniel W. by Hart power electronics books. So go through this if you don't understand. These are power equations. Okay, and in here also we can take the same assumption. We can take IL by 2 in our upside. I should include the image here, but I think if you remember, you can easily guess this. So delta IL by 2 and minus delta IL by 2. This is coming from this figure, okay? IL by 2, IL by 2. We are assuming that both sides will have the same change in the drop. So that's why IL by 2, IL by 2. So this figure should come there. When I upload, I will put it there. So we can find IL by 2 from this equation. So IL by 2, you can not this equation, IL by 2 from this equation. So that's how we have taken these two equations, and for the continuous operation, we have to make sure we have this component not going to 0. So try the derivation by yourself. Take Vs out, then you will get some expression inside brackets, then equate or larger than 0, then L has to be larger than this value. So you will try this at your home, okay? So first refer to the power electronics book by Daniel W. Hart. I hope I covered the basics so you know how to do this, okay? Okay, then output voltage ripple control. Okay, I forgot to mention. So this is the equation you are going to use to size a inductor. Okay. You can at the boundary condition, this will be equal to. So you have to, this will be equal to this value. Okay. In the boundary condition. Now, in here, this is somewhat different. So capacitor sizing. Earlier, we talked about absorbing and releasing power from the capacitor. But now, see the circuit. In this circuit, when it is in the switch on position, the capacitor supplies all the power required to the load. See, there's no power coming from this side. See. Therefore, in that condition, what happens to our capacitor current? It is minus V out over R. At the T off condition, what happens is capacitor is getting charged. So in here, don't get confused with this. When the capacitor is getting charged, the capacitor current get reduced, because when at the initial position, capacitor has no charge. So it charges at a very high current. Then it is simply dropping down. So in this position, it is somewhat highly charged. So current is low. That's why this gradient is a negative one. Okay. Capacitor charging gradient is a negative one. Any charging gradient will be a negative one. If you take a battery also, charging of a battery will also exhibit gradient like this. At initial stages, charging current is very high. It is getting lower when the charge is accumulated in the storage unit. Okay. So in here, it is very easy because we are assuming that our output output current is constant, and we can easily calculate the we easily get a expression for delta Q, because this is a square. So from the previous equation also, Q is equal I into T. So I V out over R. So you guys can understand why V out over R, right? So here V out and R, and current, we are talking about current. So current is measured in this way. So when it is supplying the current here, this will be minus, current will be minus V out over R. Okay. If it is taken as going inside, it will be minus. And in here also we are when we are considering about the area, we do not take the minus value, and we also have the delta V here also, and we simply equate it, and we can easily derive the equation from this equations. And reference book I have included, because I know some of these like you are listening to this first time, so sometimes you find it hard to understand this. That's why I have included the reference book. Go to this, and I think there's a chapter allocated for boost converters, and read, because you guys are experts in self-studying, right? Now you guys are in third year, right? Are you guys in third year? I actually do not understand the system here. You are level 5. Level 5 means third year. Okay. Okay. So you guys have studied tried self-studying for 2 years now. So read it and you will understand. Okay. Okay, now again we are coming to few design questions, and we have the same questions as before. So Vs equals 100, D equals 5. So very simple, 100, 1 minus 0.5. So it will be 200 volts. Okay. And if the above converter supplying 100 ohm load at switching frequency of 10 kilowatt, what is the minimum inductor value required for the continuous conduction? And so you guys can understand our, this is the condition. So L minimum has to be equal to this, and you will get the answer at 0.625. I have not included the workings of everything, and you guys can try, right? So very simple calculations, and refer to that book also. Everything is there, and the same ripple calculation, you have to use this equation, and you can size the capacitor. Okay, so calculating the ripple. So if you know all the components, you can calculate the ripple. If you are asked to size a capacitor for a required ripple, you are using this equation. I hope everybody understands this. Yeah, sure. So somebody has asked, can you upload this presentation? Yeah, I am uploading this presentation and also the video. Okay. So you guys can listen to it again and again. No. Oh. We do not assume. So there's a question, sir. These always assume 0.5 or not? No. I just included the 0.5 because it is easy to do the calculation by mind, right? So D can be any value. So let's say, okay, I think you guys have confusions, right? Okay, let's say. So I will write another question here. So you have a supply voltage Vs equal, let's say 50 volts. Now design a boost converter to output 150 volts. Okay, so now we are going to do the design. So you should start from our basic equation, Vs minus 1 over D. So what is the value we need here? V out, we need 150 volts. What is the V we have? Vs we have, Vs, sorry, This is 50. So 1 minus D. So we choose our D according to our requirement. So 150 volts, 50. So in here we can say 1 minus D is equal 50 over 150, right? Um, I'm sorry for my bad handwritings. Okay, so in here D will be what? 150, 1 minus 150 over 1 minus 103, right? So this is 66%. Did you understand now? Sorry, I didn't get your question. I will ask Q2 L min. You're asking about Q2 L minimum. Here. No, it depends. So in here I have included in above converter. Okay. So in above converter, D is 0.5. So let's say, okay, I will change it to 0.4. Okay, 100 be 0.4. So this value also get changed. This is the duty cycle. Okay, so duty cycle, you define it as your requirement. So if it is here, this is 0.4. Now your voltage will be what? 100 over 0.6. What is that value? 100 over 0.6. So this is 166 now. $166 volts. Okay, now this comes to 160 volts. So now our D is assumed to be 0.5. So if I ask again, if above converter, so we just put 0.5 here. So 1 minus 0.5. So here also not 0.5. Sorry. 1 minus 0.4, 0.4 over 2f. 2f means 2 into 10 to the power minus 3 into R. R is 100 ohms. So do this. If you do this calculation, 0.4, 1 minus 0.4, 2 into 10 to the power minus positive 3. So this is now now it comes to 1.2 microhenry. Okay, that's how you do it. We are not going to assume D is equal to 0.5 all the time. Okay. Okay, I hope you have understood that. Okay. Okay, now we are going to the buck boost converter. This is actually a like combination of buck and boost. So we can have voltages, we can have output voltage higher than the input voltage and also lower than the input voltage. Okay. Okay, so same all the things we assumed in previous conditions also applies here. So we say our system is in a steady state, inductor current is continuous, capacity is very large, components are ideal, and our golden theory, but our the current change in the inductor in a cycle is 0. Okay. So we have drawn our mod circuit. So switch is here now. So switch on, This is switch on, this is switch off. Okay. So now you guys, I think you guys are very familiar with the concept. You know how to do this, right? Like first draw the mode circuits, then take the inductor we have and write voltage equations to it. Then change, like get the change in the inductor current. Okay. Okay. So like in for the mode 1 circuit, we have done all the things we did earlier. So I think it is not good to go through it again, because now it is 12, almost 12. So I have another section to cover. So so after doing all the things, so linear, we can say this is constant, so linear change, and we IL closed is Vs dt over L. Same thing happens here. So you guys can easily understand this, right? VL is Vs, VL is V out. Okay, simple circuit theory. And IL open, it comes as this. So then we apply the theory. IL closed plus IL open is equal to 0. Do the same thing, and V out is equal 1 minus B. So in here, in buck converter, there's a drawback. So if you supply 5 volts here, the other side will be inverted. So you know, if you have the positive, so in here what we do is we supply the voltage in reverse direction. Okay, so if you need to have 12 volts, if your current is voltage source has only 5 volts, you connect it in the other way, so minus 5 volts, so you will get positive voltage at the output. Okay. Okay, so this will be the equation, somewhat different from the other one. So we have a minus 1 here. So let's try some few like minor design questions. So let's say we need we have Vs equals 10 volts, and duty cycle is point. Okay, for this we need to test 2 duty cycles. So first I'm going to test d equals 0.3, d equals 0.7. So in here, the first so we can make it minus. If we have positive Vs here, we will get the output as minus. If you have minus Vs here, we will get positive output. So I will keep it positive, so you will understand this. I think you guys can understand this, right? Okay, 0.3 into 10 over 0.7. So this comes to V out minus 0.3 into 10.7. This is minus 4.28 volts. So if your duty cycle is less than 0.5, this will act as this circuit will act as a buck converter. So you should know this also. If D is 0.5, not 0.5. This is buck. If D is larger than 0.5, this is boost. Okay, so let's do the 0.71 also. V out will be minus 0.7 into 10 over 0.3. So this will come as 23.33. So can you understand now? So this converter can output this is minus higher voltage and also low voltages. So if our D is higher than 0.5, it will act as a boost converter. If our D is less than 0.5, it will act as a buck converter. So same goes here for the continuous operation. Try the derivation at yourself. I'm going faster now because I have more time. So refer to the book Daniel W. Hart Power Electronics, and you will understand how IL is defined as this. This is power equations. Okay, so you can compare input power and output power, assuming ideal conditions, that means no losses. That's how we have derived this. If you have losses, there will be some changes, but in the derivations, we only consider ideal conditions. That's what that's why we took those assumptions. So in here also, Imax can be found like this, Imin can be found like this. For the continuous operation, we have to keep Imin larger than 0. So after getting, so you can take v out es out here and like take the term inside the brackets and equate or larger than 0. So you will get this, and this will be equal to this, L will be equal to this value if you are talking about the boundary condition. Okay, same thing. Then also here also the ripple is similar to the boost converter. Ripple same voltage, because same scenario, because capacitor is providing the current to the load. See. Okay. So same equation derivation is here. You can also read the reference book. Few design questions like I think we did that 100.5. So you know the other one is, if your duty cycle is 0.5, output voltage will be inverted, similar but inverted. So 100, if you need to output minus 100, you can also use a buck boost converter at half duty cycle, 0.5 duty cycle. So it will be minus 100. Okay. And here also we have some other things you can try. This is just you can here we have considered duty cycle is equal to 0.6 and frequency 10 kilohertz, and you can easily find the minimum inductor by using this equation. And sizing the capacitor is also same for a 0.5% ripple. You can easily do this. Okay. So this is what you need to know in non-isolated DC to DC converters. Okay. So now we are coming to isolated DC to DC converters. So do you guys have any idea about isolation? Have you guys done electrical installations? Do you have a subject like that? Subject called electrical installations? Somebody answer me in the chat. Okay. So in that subject, did you guys learn about separated SCLV, FELV, ELV, those things? Have you guys, did you guys learn about those things? Okay, anyway. The thing is, if you like, there can be it is not common, not a core subject, right? Okay, I will go start from the beginning. Okay. So actually there's nothing much. The thing is, isolated DC to DC converters are required because we have to avoid sometimes if the loads are very sensitive, we do not need the things happen in the grid side affecting those systems. So we need isolated DC to DC converters. The main reason is we need to get rid of ground loops. You know, in so maybe electronic students may know there are some what are those called? Circuits like class 2 circuits, class 1 circuits. So those things, they get rid of the ability, what is it, the chances of getting electric shocks. So So that is the main thing. So usually, we talk about safe touch voltage at 50 volts, if not 120 volts for DC. So if it is higher than 120 volts, if we can eliminate the ground loops, if a person can use this circuit without an issue. Okay, that is the main reason of having isolated DC to DC converters. So if you have non-isolated circuits, the ground, if the supply side ground is connected to some potential, that potential will be there in the output also. But when it comes to isolated DC to DC supplies, if supply side is grounded from some location, that ground is not directly connected to the output voltage. So if something occurs like ground potential rise or something, the other side will not be affected. So we can't exactly say it will not be affected, but it will be safe for the most time. Okay, so when we talk about isolated DC to DC converters, we have main two converter types. The first one is flyback and the second one is forward. Okay, so first talk about this flyback converter. So the next thing is we can easily get this isolation by having a transformer. So transformers, they do not have electrical connections. So they only have magnetic coupling. So they transfer energy using those energized magnetic fields. So they do not have this electrical coupling. So we can easily get this isolation by having a transformer at the input. But when it comes to DC, can we use transformers? Can we use transformers with DC voltages? No. Yeah, because to transfer energy, we should have varying magnetic fields, right? But when it comes to DC, DC does not vary. So magnetic field will be steady and there will be no flux cutting. So there will be no current induces in the other side of the coil. So, but what we can do is we can have a switch in the DC supply and we switch it on and off. So then the DC voltage will be fluctuating, like it will be a varying DC voltage, but it is most likely be a square wave, but somewhat varying. So if we do it in high frequency, we can achieve good results. So that's how we have defined this flyback converter. This is an isolated buck boost converter. So this is the transformer we have. Then we have this circuit, and so this side will be fluctuating and same thing will happen here. So the output will be equal to it will act as a buck boost converter. So we say this is a buck boost derived converter. Okay, and all the things we assumed earlier also will be here. The duty ratio and system is in steady state, and inductor current changes will be net current change will be 0. So all the things are here. When you are evaluating power electronics, those things you have to deal with. Okay, now we are coming to the evaluation of flyback converter. In here, same thing. So you additionally you only have a transformer. So we have an inductor, we have an switch. So you have to do the same thing here. But when it comes to other side, only thing is you have to use transformer equations to get the voltage here. So if it is 1-to-1, there will be no difference from the boost converter, buck boost converter. Okay. So what happens here is when the switch is closed, we have here. I forgot to mention this. So this is the transformer, and the inductor we use in flyback converter is magnetizing inductance of the transformer. There's no dedicated inductor in flyback circuit. So it is, we directly use, so transformers has magnetizing inductance, right? So I think you all know what is the equivalent circuit of a transformer. I'm not but I will draw it as I remember. There's magnetizing inductance and colos, right? This is XMRC. As I remember, this is the basic representation of the transformer core. So we have a magnetizing induction at the transformer core. So we use that as our inductor for the system. So we have an advantage also. So we do not need a separate inductor. Okay. So this is the magnetizing inductor. So switch is closed. We are taking voltage across this inductor. So what will be the voltage? This is Vs, and V1 will be VLV is equal to Vs. Okay, and here the V1 is the primary coil voltage. It is also will be equal to Vs. Okay, that's why I have written it like this. Then same thing, di by dt. So you know the style now. And here also Vs and Lm are constants, and change in current is taken. IL closed is found as Vs over dt and M. And switch open. Now in switch open, we do not have any supply from here. So now we are going from backwards. So this is bit special here. So we are going from backwards. So we are getting V out from here, and we think this will be steady here, and this will be equal to, so our V1, this coil. So this is N1 to N2 ratio. So if this is V out, this V2 is also be V out, right? So we know the equation from a transformer. From that, we say V1 will be equal to minus N1 over N2 over V out. And ignore these things if you just get your attention to this side only. Maybe this will seem a bit confusing, but this is what we do. So V out, we think it is applying here. Then, so you know the this is you know the dot conversion, right? So this is in the opposite direction, so it will be minus, and same thing, you take dIL by dt, and only additional thing is N1 by N2, and then you know the turn off time is here. So we are also taking linear current change, and IL open is, we can easily find it as this. So finally, you apply the equation for the magnetizing inductor of the transformer, and you can derive the equation like this. So this is a buck boost converter. Additional thing is you have N2 over N1, because we put the dot conversion as opposite, we do not have the minus here. Did you all understand that? So go through these derivations. Anyway, you guys don't need this. You only need to know how to slice a capacitor and a inductor, and selecting your duty cycle according to requirements. Okay. So this will be the equation for your flyback converter. And I have not included the other IL components in here. You have to go through that from the book. So refer to Daniel W. Hart, Power Electronics. And so let's do a simple design question. Let's say N2 over N1 equals 1, and D equals 0.6, Vs equals, let's say, 10. So V out will be 0.6 into 10 over 0.4. This will be what? 6 or so 15, right? Okay. So I have included the sizing of the inductor here. You can go through this and same thing, like you find delta IL, and you already found delta IL, and you only thing you find is ILM. So it is the finding is in that reference book. So go through that and you know how to achieve the continuous conduction and derive the equation. Okay. Then output ripple control. This is also similar to the buck boost converter. Same thing. And so you know the current is supplied by the capacitor in the modes. See, so you know how to do this and find the capacitor. For calculating ripple, you can easily use this equation. If you have to design a system for a required ripple, you can use this equation. Okay, now we come to forward converter. This is bit confusing. I'm going a bit fast because we have no time. So in here, this is a buck converter, but only thing is we have a what is it called? Demagnetizing loop here. So in here, you remember earlier I said the inductors cannot have high current changes, and there will be developing high voltages. So we need to provide paths to de-energize the inductor. So in here, we have this transformer has a special winding for de-energizing the core. So that is the only special thing here. So this is the, so energy transfer will happen between, this is coil 1 and coil 2. So this is the energy transferring part. I will draw it here. So energy transform will happen only through this path. So this coil is only when this side is disconnected, there's no path to de-energize to circuit, because see here it is disconnected. Here you cannot provide, you cannot induce charge in this coil and dissipate energy to this side because this is closed here. So you need to provide another path. So that is what we have provided here. So energy will be you know circulating in this path. So usually this side. So the check the arrows, energy will go to the source again. And now we can have the derivation. So as same before, take the mod circuits, and the here we have two inductors. See, so in this case we are not going to take the magnetizing inductance. We are going to take the inductance at the output side or the secondary side. So we are taking that. So our VLX will be, so now this is V2, this is V2, and this is V out. So then we get this connection from VS by using the ratio to here VS. So V2 will be equal to N2 over N1. So DI by DIL over DT, we can easily, so you know the role, do this, and this is also a constant. So N2 by N1 is constant for a transformer, VS is a constant, V out is a constant, this is the rating. So DIL by DT is a constant gradient. So we say our current is increasing linearly, so we can represent it by having delta IL over DT, and so the same calculation you find IL closed. Then switch open condition. In here you actually don't need to consider this side, but I have included winding voltages also. Only thing is you are only considering inductor. So inductor is voltage is equal minus V out L di by dt you are the same thing, VLX equal to LX di by dt. Then, switch on time, you take it here, and IL open is 1 minus 1 minus d V out over t LX. So net change to the inductor is 0 for a cycle. Then N2 over N1 Vs minus, so we can apply it from here, and IL from here, and you will get the equation. So this is called Buck derived. So easily, so this component is the equation of Buck converter. Only addition is winding parameters. So this is Buck derived. So this one is Buck boost divide. Okay. So okay, that's it. I am going to cover today. Okay, it is 12:20 now. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask now. You can use your mic or you can use chat. So I will answer. You guys may have many questions on the chat, right? I will go to that one. Because I think earlier it was only 22 students. When I was discussing the cat one, because I found okay. Okay, I will see about this for the cat one, because the cat one is not prepared by me. Actually, don't get confused with the TMA one. Okay, discussing rectifier section. I have a lot of doubts on that. I think reference videos a lot of confusion. Okay, so you guys are confused with rectifiers also. Okay, so
Assignment based, cat one is assignment based or not?
actually it is not very assignment based, because I have included the recommended material. So refer to these power electronics books. Cat one, actually cat one is very easy. I think you guys have nothing to worry about, because you know that I don't know what the previous coordinator has taught you, but I can do a revision. But the thing is, I have to solely rely on the cat one paper and the TMA. That's what I only have. So if I do that, I will be directly helping you guys to do the cat one. Okay, I will think about something. I can do another session, no worries. But okay, I will ask from Dr. Uday Kumar also. Then I will let you know. Okay, I will provide. Uh, okay, actually, I can. Do you guys find today's session like more informative? Like, can you guys follow the way I am teaching you guys? Like, is it okay? Like, can you, if I, then I can like make a side slide for you guys. Then okay. Then I will provide a slide set. That will not be a problem.
Sir, excuse me.
Okay, you tell me.
Sir, which type of cat paper will come?
Cat papers, which type means like it's open book, two questions.
Uh, but in our online exam, we have 3 more type papers.
Mod 3.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I am not the one who prepared it, but I did the formatting only. So I did format it to a mod 3 paper. I think like you guys, like I don't know the level you guys are in. That's why I did that. Otherwise, I can also prepare a mod 1 paper. Mod 1 is I thought it will be hard for you guys. Anyway, like cat 1 is easy. Actually, there were some like many derivations, but we removed them because I found it bit time consuming. So I think you guys don't need to worry about Cat 1. It is a very easy paper. I will provide a slide set. So I haven't received the course material. What do you mean by course material? It is available in the Moodle, right? The hard copies. Are you referring to hard copies?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I have no idea about how the things are going. So usually you guys also get those hard copies delivered to your home. Is that how the things go in Open University?
Yes, sir. Normally we got it from the dispatch unit. And
okay.
for this subject, I haven't received the book.
Have others received a book?
No, sir, there's no book for
No,
this
sir.
subject
No,
until
sir.
that.
Yeah, that's why, because there's no curriculum for this subject. So they have, like, the previous coordinator has uploaded the NPTEL one. So we are in the process of preparing it. So I actually got the invitation to prepare it, but still haven't started. That's why I did some designing questions today. Okay, anyway,
Yes.
Cat 1 is easy, I can assure. So you guys, I will provide some slide set for that too. Then from the so this is day school 2, right? So I can have like several days. There's another one, I think day school 3. I will have several other day schools also and cover the basics. Will that be helping you guys? So I will go bit easy on marking Cat 1 because you guys are like not very familiar with the concepts yet, because the curriculum is not there. Curriculum is also not there, so like you guys do not have proper materials. So I will do another few sessions to discuss things. Cat 1. So another day, Cat 1 is next week, right? We'll see. I have 2 other subjects also. That's why this week I'm a bit busy. I will try, okay?
Sir, Cat 1, three or 2 questions.
Cat 1, 2 questions.
The single phase 3-phase diode rectifiers and
It is a
3-phase control.
single, yeah, it is a single question with 2 parts.
This 2 question is one question is single phase and another question is 3-phase control rectifiers.
Yes, there are 2 questions. First one has 2 parts. The first part will cover single phase diode rectifiers, and the second part will cover 3-phase diode rectifiers. And in the second question, it only has 1 part. 1 part means there's a derivation and you have to use that derivative equation to do a calculation. We didn't have any idea about it. Okay, I will okay, how to, can you guys like make a WhatsApp group and add me, so then I can communicate and give you materials. So do you have a WhatsApp group? Like is there a batch rep here? Okay, I will put a WhatsApp invitation link in the Moodle. Okay, so you guys can join to that WhatsApp group and ask stuff, so I can provide you materials. Okay, will that be good? That will be good, right? So you guys have the communication with me also. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then I will put a WhatsApp invitation link in the Moodle. So ask everybody to join it who are doing the subject. Okay. Okay, then it is 12:30. So we can stop the session, right? Okay. Thank you everybody for joining. So I will provide the video. I will upload it somewhere and give you the link. Okay.
Record will be uploaded this Learn USSL.
Actually, Learn USL, I think it does not have the capacity to upload recordings. So I will have to upload it somewhere like Google Drive, OneDrive, or YouTube or somewhere.
Okay,
So
sir, thank you.
which one you prefer? Google Drive, OneDrive, or YouTube?
YouTube.
Okay. Okay. I will upload it to YouTube and provide you guys. Okay. Okay, then I can finish the session, right?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you guys for answering questions and all. Okay, bye. I'm going to finish the session now.